Jagielka's joined us. Marco Silva, incidentally, once he left us, spent 5 minutes in the rain here, signing autographs, having photos with all the young fans who stayed behind to try and do just that here at Goodison Park. Well, congratulations, Phil, on that robust 4 minutes.
Yeah, massive cameo. But no, it was nice to get on. Obviously, the boys put the game to bed pretty early tonight, but getting on.
Was it a farewell? That's the question that's been raised.
I suppose the answer to that will probably take place in the next probably 10 days. I hope not, but there's obviously a good possibility it could be. But you say time will tell, and if not, I'll plod on. If not, I'll go and find somewhere else to go and play football.
But there's still plenty of football in you.
I think so, yeah. I feel that way. Whether someone else does is the probably $1 million question.
I think for me, Jags, 12 years at the club, top professional, club captain. Every time you've been called on, you're there, on and off the park. So if it was my decision, I'd keep you, because this club needs leaders, and he's a leader. But how have you felt the 12 years, being an Evertonian now, what you've been through? How do you feel about it?
It's a bit strange, you look at the different sort of managers we've had, the different squads. Obviously, when I first come in, you were doing your thing, mixing it, scoring the important goals. But no, I look back and there's been some great moments. Hopefully there's some to continue, but if there's not, I can't complain. I've come to a fantastic club. They've been great with me, and they say if it is the farewell game at home, so be it. But they say I'll continue to play football for as long as I can and go from there.
Love you, Jags, the shout from up there. When you look at this team now, when you talk about the 12 years you've had, how much potential do you see in this current team with this manager now?
Well, that's one thing we need. We need to stick with a bit of continuity. We've had obviously too much chopping and changing. We've still got a massive squad. There's quite a few players on loan that are due to come back, and obviously the manager will probably want to freshen things up in the summer. So it's important that we sort of slim down the squad to a good number, probably 20, 25, rather than probably closer to 30. And progress forward. We've had ups and downs this year, but we've dealt with it really well. So it's got a lot of potential, a lot of youth, some exciting talent in there, and it's about adding the sort of key ingredients going forward.
What do you think that is, Phil? Do you think it's a striker? Do you think it's a 20 or 30 goal striker? Obviously, we've played Dominic Calvert-Lewin for 10 games now on the run. Yeah, he's not scoring a lot of goals, but he's only a young lad. Or Tim's big on Richarlison playing in the middle for them.
I think it's really difficult because everyone wants that 20-goal season striker, and it depends what sort of style he plays in as well. Obviously, the manager wants us pressing, and Dom's done a fantastic job for us. Unselfish. He's probably hating the fact that he's sort of getting labelled with that sort of role. But as a team, we've looked so much better with him leading the line and putting the defenders under so much pressure. But I think if you can get that person that's going to score you probably 10, 15 goals guaranteed, and everyone else chipping in. We've played with Richarlison up front a few times this year. It works sometimes and it doesn't others. The Premier League's a very physical league to play, and obviously Richarlison can put himself about, but I think in that respect Dom's obviously got the little bit of a march on him.
Do you think the style that we've seen from Everton, probably going back to Liverpool here, the goalless draw, is the blueprint moving forward?
I think that's what we want. I think if you look, we've still got a lot of ability on the pitch, but at the same extent everyone's working hard for each other.
Has that been the difference?
Yeah, obviously you never go out and not try and work hard. It's just sometimes things just don't go well, but I think once you get a little bit of momentum, especially in this division, sometimes the fixture list can be a little bit kinder to you, playing the teams when they're a little bit off form rather than flying high. So it's worked out all right. We've kept a few clean sheets towards the end of the season, which obviously takes a little bit of pressure off the goal scorers as well. So I say going forward, I'm sure the manager wants to finish off again with an important result at Spurs, but I'm sure he'll be looking again now for the start of next season and see where we can go from there.
You look at last season, 49 points. I've said this earlier to Silver as well. Now 53 points. Is it an underachievement with the investment that's gone into the club and what the fans expect? And it is, such expectations on you guys.
It's difficult to probably use the word underachievement. I think expectations were probably higher. But I think, going back to my point before, when you change the manager and you change the squad so frequently like we did, 3 managers last season and, 3 different ideas, 3 different personnel and things, I think next season we have to judge the squad and the manager on what he has. I think it'll be more of a bedding in period, and I think going forward 53 points so far is a fantastic bedding in period, but like you say, there was still a hefty amount of investment put in there. But I don't see why next season we can't, use as a building block and go forward. And like I say, 1 or 2 people in, a few people probably going to leave, and then a few more special nights like tonight.
What a servant you've been. 12 years, fantastic. Was it 385 appearances so far?
You tell
That's
me.
what I heard from commentary tonight. Congratulations, Phil.
Cheers,
Thanks
guys.
for talking to us, and good luck for the next 10 days.
Cheers, thanks.
Thank you very much. Let's get some Burnley reaction now. Sean Dyche with Patrick Davison.
Slightly off it at the start. What do you put that down to?
Well, the fact they've climbed a mountain. That's what I put it down to. Climbed a mountain second half. At the second half of the season, 28 points is an incredible return. The goals we've scored. So, there's a release moment. And I was wondering about that. But like I say, it's hard. They're human beings. They know the work they've put in, and I'm never going to fault them for that. That's for sure. But you want to finish the right way, and I thought second half we did. We've got a really important game to finish right, as I'm talking about, against Arsenal. But first half we just weren't on our performance level. So you're not going to get anything if you're not.
So what do you say to them at half time? Just one last push, lads. Is it that the message?
No, just remind them of the good work. Remind them of that 1% difference. A collective 1% can be a powerful thing, particularly as we have to play on top of it all the time. We haven't got the prowess to have 4 or 5 people when they're not quite on it. We have to have everyone at maximum all the time. And like I say, the margins are really fine even within that. It's not a great thing. It's just I know how the group work, and I knew that we weren't quite on it first half with them details. But second half, it was a much better performance and much more like us.
As you tried to force your way back into it second half, might you have had a penalty?
Well, there's no point in talking about it. I think we've had 2 in 92. So, you can work that one out for yourself.
One other decision or incident I wanted to ask you about. Ashley Westwood's challenge on Morgan Schneiderlin. Not so much for the tackle, but for the reaction. What did you see of it?
I was pleased to just see 2 people go in for a tackle. It's refreshing to see 2 people actually go in for an actual tackle, Where they actually tackle each other and they just get up and get on with it. But that's my opinion. Maybe I'm getting old-fashioned.
How disappointing tonight for Burnley, John? No way around it.
Yeah, especially the form they've been on recently. But I did touch upon against teams in the top half. I think they've only won 2 all season, so yeah, that's one thing they need to change. As I said, since the turn of the year they've been on a great bit of form, but they'll be disappointed not to get something out of here.
Did it feel like they were a bit slow out of the blocks, Tim, tonight?
I think it's all credit to Everton. They didn't let them out the blocks, and they pinned them in, and they kept pressing, getting the ball wide. When Burnley were clearing the ball, Everton was straight back at them. So I feel that Everton were just too good tonight.
Was there a bit of I use the word intensity about the way Everton started the game, but did we see that from Burnley at the start of the second half that wasn't perhaps there in the first?
There was, in a way. I think Everton had a lot more shots in the box. There was a lot more movement around the box. Burnley were a little bit laboured with it. It was a little bit of a slow build-up. They didn't really test Jordan Pickford the whole game. There was a couple of chances. Chris Wood, he could have took one. He had a similar one against Man City last week on his left foot going in the box. A great ball through from Robbie Brady, but you've got to test the keeper at some point in the game. You can't just go through games playing on the edge of the box and not really testing or getting any shots on target, and I think that's where they need to improve.
So how would you sum up the Burnley season from one who's been in and around it?
It was difficult to begin with the Europa League and the amounts coming to it was new to a lot of the boys and the manager. So, from the turn of the year, before the turn of the year, we were on a terrible bit of form and in real trouble. And then from then we've had a purple patch. The 2 boys up front, we've changed to that formation when we played 2 up front, and I think that was going back to how we played last year. So I think next year, what's next for Burnley? The players they'll be in the market for are going to be the same as everyone from 6th, 7th below. It's a difficult market. Where do you improve? And it's important to keep hold of key players like James Tarkowski.
He looks all right,
just
by the way.
joined in.
He looks all right.
Should play him centre forward, shouldn't he?
Hobbled off in the second half, but he looks okay.
I think it was 2-0. He was happy to come on.
done his work for the night. Well, I just wonder on that point about Burnley starting the season very early and being in European football. If Everton were to go and get a good result at Spurs on the last day and Wolves were to stumble, then it could be Everton in 7th and potentially in Europe next season. Do you think that would be a good thing, or would you quite like to see Everton have a clean break?
No, I think it would be a fantastic thing. We shouldn't be sitting here saying if or could. Some of the points Everton have dropped this year have obviously hindered the season, but maybe they could get to Europe. And if we get Europe, then that will mean that's what this club needs. The amount of money getting spent, it's
as a player, you want to play in Europe.
Yeah.
And you talk at the start of the season, there's a lot of games and people might moan Thursday, Sunday. As a player, you want to play in Europe. With Stoke, we had Hajduk Split, Dynamo Kiev, Besiktas, Valencia. Great games, great European games away from home, great atmosphere. It's a learning curve for you, and as a player you want to be in there. So these players, with the wages run, with their investments into the sign-on fees, they're the players that should be in Europe and want to be playing in Europe. And to attract the best players, you need to be playing in the Europa League and getting into the Champions League.
Yeah, the fans love it as well, don't they? John, thank you very much. We're out of time. Tim, thank you as well. A really good night at Goodison for Everton to finish their season here in style. Bye from us.